No one's asking who's the Muslim or who's the Jewish person or anything else. So I would like to, if we can, not talk about a person's chosen religion. I think if we have questions about a church or something like that, I think those are fair game. But to castigate someone for their religion, I think is wrong.
Okay,
you can rephrase it? Okay. Let's see how this turns out. Ask the question about not someone's religion, ask it about the church there. Right.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, who here is supportive of the Church of Scientology and has their behavior choices have lined up with actions to demonstrate that?
See, the second part was wrong, right? Your behavior choices?
Actions.
Yeah, let me go to the cards. No, you cannot. No, you cannot.
Next question.
All right, so this is going to be my question. When I came to Florida in 2012, I went to Mount Olive AME Church, and I think I saw Pastor Williams come in somewhere. In our conversations, he gave me the poverty report of 2012. It showed that there were 6 or 7 poorest districts in the area were in Pinellas County. This particular, where we're sitting, was one of them, if not the poorest. So, and I am the president of NAACP. What is it that you plan to do for black people? And I know there are lots of other people, but I'm going to worry about, because it seems to be trickle-down economics. When we rise, everybody rises. It seems like, for some reason. But what are your plans specifically for the blighted area, which would be Greenwood, if you are elected? And I got several questions about that. But that's going to be the question. We started on that side, yeah, so now we're starting on this side.
They tried to sabotage me and turn the mic off, but I got it. Very, very good question. I think the voices are starting to get stronger and louder in this community, and I hear your voices. Soon City Hall will hear your voices, the entire city are going to hear your voices. But following that path towards establishing your CRA in this community and allowing the MLK district to be self-sustaining and vibrant because of the MLK district and not relying on somebody in City Hall making decisions for you is the right path, and that's a huge help for this community. That's where it starts. Number 2, listening, right? Listening to the people. Not being afraid to walk the streets and show up here at food drives or in this community center at meetings and roll your sleeves up and ask questions and answer questions that have emotional answers, right? We need change. Well, change only moves as fast as trust. So we need to establish trust in that process. And Zeb's giving me the signal.
It's a minute now, you guys.
And my answer is twofold. One is what Mike just said, the CRA, if that's what this community thinks will work the best, that's what we ought to do. We need to drive more jobs into the city of Clearwater other than just hospitality. Hospitality industry has been great in the city of Clearwater, but those jobs in the hospitality industry don't pay a whole lot. We need to get better jobs and more job opportunity for this community. Second thing we need to do is we need to address social services. Kathleen Peters, the Pinellas County Commissioner, she shared with me that there's a community in Clearwater, the southwest side, that had the highest rate of drug overdoses in Pinellas County in the last year. We are ignoring a huge problem. We need social services in our community. We need to solve drug problems throughout our community. We need to quit relying on our police and fire to be social services workers. They're not. They're emergency responders. They're not prepared to provide those services that our citizens so desperately need.
Eliseo Santana. Too many of our young people, too many of our high school students during the summer go without any kind of employment. It is essential, and I am going to work to make sure that they get summer jobs, that they make that income. Because when they make every dollar they make, it helps not just the family, but the merchants that are here, because they will spend it in the community. It's a positive turnaround. We have many of our citizens that have limited income and they own their own homes. We need to make sure that their electric bill is low. Something as simple as putting insulation in their attic, which they cannot afford, but we as a city can provide services like that to reduce their electric bill so they have more money in their pocket, so that there again, they can improve their property, they can go and buy things from our merchants and get this local economy going. It is essential that we make sure that our citizens are safe and secure. It is essential that they have a job. It is essential that we take care of our children.
So let me be pragmatic. In order for it to be changed, we're always being told that Clearwater is so diverse. It's not reflected in our government, period. And so how can we represent a group of people where there's no representation? So if you're going to ask me what I'm going to do, I can just tell you what I did last month. I resigned from the Downtown Development Board so that I can focus on this. And what I did was I turned behind me and I appointed someone of diversity to replace me. A young gentleman of color, a businessman, young. So that's what you do. You start at the top. If you want your needs to be met, you need to go to the top. You need to be represented in public office, in associations and in groups. And diversity is key. We can't have a huge group of people not be represented. You just can't. It's not fair. And you're never going to get your needs met.
As I've said, I think there's a huge disconnect between downtown and our neighborhoods, and this is a great example. I would like to see more people from this community being involved in downtown, both in the city council meetings, in terms of the other opportunities that they may have, and to encourage young people from this community. I have talked with St. Pete College. They have an internship program for their students to come into the city of Clearwater and experience what it's like to be working in a community. But there is no internship program for anyone from Greenwood. And so we're talking to St. Pete College about establishing that kind of program where we can encourage young people to be part of the process, not to be on the outside looking in. And so our job is, and as far as I'm concerned, my job is to listen so that I will be in your neighborhood to talk to you about those kinds of issues, and my job is to listen to what you have to say. Thank you.
So I want to first say that I believe that it's very important that as a candidate, and more so as an elected official, that we are continuing the conversation with everyone to make sure that their voice is being represented. I certainly am not a minority, but I do feel as though I can represent minorities. I have been fortunate enough with my day job as a human resources director to hire many people from this neighborhood, and they're good people. And let me tell you about a gentleman specifically. Marcel Durham lives in this neighborhood. He was just selected as the Employee of the Year for our entire company. And he comes right from North Greenwood. You may know him. He had a good high school football career. But he shows his helpful, caring, and responsiveness every single day when he comes into work. And he tells me about the issues that are here in North Greenwood. And I listen to him.
Thank you.
What I would do to help represent you is fully support the CRA and its efforts to keep people in their homes and to provide more economic opportunity here. But what else I would do is, I've advocated before the Clearwater City Charter and the City Council for districting, a form of government. We need to have everyone represented on our City Council and at our city meetings. I go and speak at those meetings. I do not see a lot of people of color in the audience or standing up and speaking. When I'm elected council, I will stay in this neighborhood, work in this neighborhood, and work together to have you show up and have your concerns heard. I can't do it for you. You need to do it. I want to collaborate with you, work together. I'm not here to speak for you. I want to speak with you. And I can't do it alone. I'm one person on a dais of 5 if I get elected. One voice, and I'll speak strongly, but nothing will happen unless other people are in that audience saying they want it too.
Kathleen's correct, and redistricting is important. We need districts. I know that there were many people who were on the board who were advocating for districts. And there are some people within the city government that put a kibosh to that. But it's important that I'm keenly aware that I'm an old white guy, and that's all that we have on the city council right now. We do need more diversity, and we need to stop standing in the way of doing things like bringing districts to the area. Also, again, CRA is important. Getting money here into this community rather than the government corporate welfare that we give for like $70 million to the Philly Stadium. This is a $1.9 billion organization, and we have to pay for this? That money should be going into our communities.
Thank you. All right, so now you guys know I ask wild questions. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to ask a question?
Hi, my name is Mike Reardon. I'm going to kind of pick up where Mark just mentioned, and this is kind of a yes/no question. Forbes magazine has the Phillies valued at $1.85 billion last year. They make hundreds of millions of dollars of profits. If you look at who their sponsors are, they make a fortune. Clearwater wants to give them, I think it's $67 million through a variety of our money, state money, and the bed tax money. They're asking for 40. It's a $34 million stadium built 16 years ago. You can just answer this yes or no. Do you believe in the corporate welfare? And keep in mind, Clearwater wants to borrow money and pay $6 million in interest on a loan to give the Phillies. Do you believe we should be giving corporate welfare to the Phillies? And they only play 17 spring training games this year.
Well, no.
No.
I think it's a much more difficult question than a yes or no answer. I think that the Phillies are vital to Clearwater. They have a lot of history here, and they do bring in a lot of revenue with the people that they bring with them. However, I don't think that we should lose the bank to do it. So I think we need to be smart and negotiate the right deal, not just give them the money away.
The Phillies represent the second largest source of revenue other than tourism to the city of Clearwater. We've had a partnership with the Phillies for 70-some years, going on renegotiating the contract for another 20 years, which will be almost 100 years that we've had the relationship with the Phillies. Because they are a revenue generator, because they have been a partner for such a long time, and because the process represents the city, the state, and the county, that Clearwater, I think, has a responsibility to maintain that kind of partnership because the city owns all of the property. And there is an $8 million fund that the city has so that they can renovate that property as often as they can. So my answer is yes, I think we need to maintain that partnership.
I would love to say the popular no and get a huge round of applause. But I'm thinking about all those businesses that rely on the Phillies and all the people that rely on the Phillies to make a living and all the money that it brings in. So to me, I'm not ready to say no. I told you, I always say what I mean and I mean what I say. I do want to point out something. It scares me to put all my eggs on one basket. And right now, we're just putting it on tourism. And this year was a great example on how dangerous that could be. The red tide And the hurricane that never happened took us months to recuperate. So we have to be careful before we start eliminating sources of income and make a decision that can bring businesses to bankruptcy. So at this point, I'd love to say no, but I can't. I need more information, and I'm very leery about making a decision that will impact another set of population.
First of all, I want to say that I am totally against, maybe I should stand up. I am totally against any kind of corporate welfare. That should not happen. It is essential, though, the way that it was pictured here is not necessarily a good picture. My main concern is when we give up tax collection, when we give up a lot of money in order to bring a large corporation like Walmart into our neighborhoods to be able to then, quote, give us jobs. Giving us jobs is good, but when they are minimum wage jobs, when they're part-time jobs, when our workers that are in the city, that we are subsidizing their employer to be there and make money, is not able and they're not willing to pay a wage where they can then pay their home and their way of living, that is wrong. That's the welfare tax that I am going to go after.
Thank you. I think it's that speaker, Darryl. Is it that speaker?
Yeah, I happen to work in the sports industry, and I understand intricately the economic impact and jobs that the Phillies have provided for years to the city of Clearwater. So we do not lose the Phillies. At the same time, I've also, through my work, I've also surveyed all the spring training sites in Florida and seen what other communities do, and I can tell you, we need to make sure that the Phillies aren't treated any better than the other cities in Florida that those spring training treat their professional sports teams. That needs to be strongly negotiated for the protection of the citizens of Clearwater. And we need to, and in a neighboring community, I know that they held a strong hand and they had the team came way off what they initially asked for to get to the result, but that needs to happen with the Phillies. But yes, I would support a deal with the Phillies that made sense for all of the citizens of Clearwater.
Well, that was a good handoff there. You're like a quarterback to a running back. But Mr. Mike Reardon, thank you for the question, and a very good question. His question was $69 million, and my answer is no. But with that said, I do recognize the vital importance of the Phillies in our community to our businesses. There is a meeting zone somewhere in there. It's not $69 million. It is a negotiation, and the Phillies are a very important part of the fabric and the history of this community, as Jack Russell Stadium is just down the road, and as a child I was going to baseball games there. But at the root of your question, Mike, you're exactly right, is for far too long Clearwater's been steered by special interest groups and the establishment, and what that's done to us, it's gave us no balance. Our balance is out of whack, and that balance is between making Clearwater a destination where people come and they leave, and the balance of quality of life. And if I get into office, I'll make sure we rebalance that with quality of life.
Okay, we're gonna do this one real quick. Just, how long have each of you lived in Clearwater, and what would your top 3 priorities be if elected? So just give me the top 3, and then how long you been here?
Boom. Born and raised in this community, born in Morton Plain Hospital in downtown, raised just up the street at Sunset Point. No, I'm not a Scientologist. I'll answer that for you, though. Secondly, top 3 things. There's a lot of important things going on in this community. Number 1, obviously, the 68, 69, the number keeps escalating, $1 million that wants to be spent at Imagine Clearwater. I think, again, that figure probably needs to be played with and sized down a little bit. Number 2, we have a city manager that's been there 20 plus years. It's vital that we get the process rolling for a new city leader with new vision. and ensure that there's a smooth transition and not just ripping the rug out from under them. And number three, I think we need to focus more on our neighborhoods and the quality of life versus destination of Clearwater.
All right, before you answer, just give me how long you been here?
Yeah, I just started working this week, my 6th year in Clearwater.
I have lived in Clearwater for 6 years out of my 40 years of being in Pinellas County.
And what are your top three? Give me, just give me how long you've been here and your top three priorities.
My top priority is to make sure, first of all, I want to make sure that if you look around you, you have business people here and they have interest in business. And I am a community person. My interest in making sure that our neighborhoods are safe and secure and they are vibrant and they're a good place to live in, because that's the quality of Clearwater is in our neighborhoods. We will take care of the business aspect, but that is a priority for me, is our neighborhoods.
Okay, let me try it this way. Hi, my name is Zed. I've been here for 4 years. My top three priorities are X, Y, and Z. Thank you.
Okay, 20 years, fix outdated procedures, make Clearwater vibrant, and make our government transparent, fiscally responsible, and accountable.
Thank you.
As I've said, one of my primary concerns is the disconnect between our communities, between our neighborhoods and downtown. I would like to have scheduled meetings where the representatives on the city council will meet with every neighborhood on a scheduled time so that we can listen and we can collaborate.
How long have you been here?
I've been here 43 years. I was 3 years old when I came here.
Hi, my name is Zed. My top three priorities are X, fixing the water, the CRA, and, shoes for big-footed people.
They didn't get it.
Pass the mic.
They didn't get
Thank
it.
you. Go ahead.
And next. Do I?
No, I'm trying to do this real quick so we can get through just, Okay.
Scott Thomas, I've been here 2 years. Number one priority is making sure neighborhoods are represented. Number two, making sure we have a more business-friendly climate. And number three, focus on public safety.
My name's Kathleen Beckman. I've been here close to 4 years. My priorities are more affordable housing, protecting our environment, and having more economic opportunity to enhance our neighborhoods.
So I was here in 2000 and 2001, working for the Lisa McPherson Trust, helping people who had been abused by Scientology. And by the way, individual Scientologists are not what I'm talking about. They're good, decent people. And top three, I'm getting into it. Accountability, financial accountability for the city, which includes stripping Scientology of their tax-exempt status. And also, affordable housing and sustainability, because storms are only going to get worse.
Thank you. All right, we have a couple more questions.
Hello, how are you doing? This is a two-part question. The first is, with all the changes going on, what sparked such an interest in our community now as opposed to back then when I was a young kid? I grew up in this community. I was a part of this young community center as a summer program. And then also there was a summer program called the CEDAR program that taught us how to build and rebuild. But it was done away with because it was helping, and you wanted to do away with it. The city of Clearwater wanted to do away with it because it helped young people instead of hurting. So what sparked such a big interest now as opposed to then of wanting to help now?
Okay. Good question.
Well, I think there's a growing acknowledgement across the country that racial problems need to be addressed. And so I do believe that plays a factor in wanting us to reach out and help more. I remember talking to the chief of police at one of our meetings with the Clearwater Academy. And the chief was telling everybody in our classroom that when Ferguson happened, it was really tough on the police officers. And they had to bring in help, psychiatric help, to give them support. And I said, well, I hope there was at least some training about why people were upset across the country. And he just blamed it on knuckleheads. So we need to change the way the city thinks about this.
Andre, I think that was a great question. Here's what I'll answer. I moved down here in July of 2016. I got involved in January of 2017. By the time I got my house unpacked and got settled in, find out how to get involved, I became a precinct captain, became a guardian ad litem, got involved with Habitat, and so when I retired from my teaching job, it took 5 months to get involved in the community and volunteer. And so I'm a worker, I'm a doer, I love doing that, I'll continue to do that. So I might not have been here when you and I were a child, you're probably about my age. But it doesn't take long for me to roll up my sleeves and get to work.
And I will say this, the main reason I'm running is because there is a total lack of leadership amongst our city council. That's very simple. And if you want the same thing, or if you expect a different result, you have to stop voting in the same people. So I bring that fresh perspective, new ideas and energy, so that's why I'm running.
And as I said, I've lived here 43 years, and I've never run for public office. During that 43-year time period, I've been chairman of the Greater Clearwater Chamber of Commerce, chairman of Leadership Pinellas, vice chair of the now the Clearwater Aquarium. And now I think it's time for me to be aware of the fact that there are issues in the city and there's a lack of leadership, and I want to make a difference. And I want to do it before I don't have another opportunity. So I think there is an awareness on all of us who are involved in this situation to be a participant and hopefully to make a difference.
I can obviously not speak for the government. However, as a small business owner in your community for 18 years, I can tell you what my opinion is. And what I've seen is that your community has united and your voices are louder and they're more organized. And I think that's why. That's my opinion. I think all your concerns are being heard because you're more organized and you're working hard at it. But obviously it's not enough. You need to have people up in your council and your mayor that will listen to what you have to say. And that's up to you.
I have worked in our community. I have worked here since I've been here, all of my life. This is who I am. Every breath I take is to make sure that I am of service to our community. This is nothing new for me. And let me tell you that right now the difference is that I see that by being in the city council, I will have the institutional authority to do the things that every one of the people that are there are not hearing what we want and what needs to be done. And it's essential that you put one of us there, that you don't have to convince, because I know what needs to be done. I know that they're not hearing us. Vote. Come out and vote and give me the power to make change.
It's fantastic that we have the best beach in America. It's been fantastic for our tax revenues in our city. That benefits all of us throughout Clearwater. But I think there's a growing sense that that's not enough. You know, we complain a lot about all the attention that goes to Tampa and St. Pete, and we get left out of the conversation nowadays. Well, we need to go get it. We need to do what they are doing to make their cities great. Not just their beach great, their city great. And I think there's a rising sense in your community and communities across Clearwater, because we can't be the best city in America until we work together as a city and we care about every neighborhood and every part of this city. So I think there's a realization of that. We can't be competitive in a very competitive environment nowadays for cities unless we work together as a community and raise up all parts of our community.
I think that's a great question. I think we kind of got away from it a little bit, but your question is why all of a sudden, every 2 years, do we show back up to engage and to help out the community, was his question. And that's a great question. Again, it's temporary political activism, and this community sees it every 2 years in our voting cycle. I can tell you that I waited 40 years because I wanted to finish my education. I completed my master's degree in public administration, concentration in organizational leadership. I serve on the Municipal Advisory Code in the City of Clearwater for 3 years. I was the chairperson for the Charter Review Committee. I sit on the Citizens Advisory Committee for Forward Pinellas. I sit on the Board of Directors for ARCA Tampa Bay, and I'm a member of this very community center you sit in. So I have been active in this community, and I will continue to be. You have my word on it.
Thank you. Couple more questions. I think this is a yes, no.
I'm gonna be sensitive about this question, but I'm gonna be real as well. I'm from this community mostly all my life. I went to school over here. See that school closed. But I want to know from you up there, how many of you guys are Donald Trump supporters? I know I won't get an honest answer because he's not honest.
Yeah, I think we're going to let that slide.
Get out of here alive, don't answer that question.
The NAACP is not a political organization.
Unfair.
Go ahead, if you want to answer it, you can answer it.
No.
Okay, no.
Unfair.
Is there?
Unfair question.
Let's bring it back to reality. It's not about Donald Trump, it's about us. The people in this room. The commitment that you say you have for America. I was born in this town in 1974 in the basement of Martin Plant Hospital. I was in the basement, I'm sorry, 1945. Well, at least we got everybody awake. Yeah, right. I would love to feel that job. My point is, about 9 years ago, they were getting ready, they had started to disassemble this facility right here. With Van Ferber, Mr. Bill Johnson, people that showed up and showed their commitment to this community with no impartialities at all. I'd like to know, with you guys that are running for the good of us as Americans and to represent this city of Clearwater, how many of you guys will show up to make sure that this building does not get torn down, and we will make a personal commitment, win, lose, or draw, to make sure that this